Hi guys, this is Shivadi. In this session, I am going to explain high-level overview of Angular component flow because for the people who new to the Angular, by going through this particular video, at least they will get high-level idea what are the different stages involved and the components are getting involved to solve the particular request. Again, this is to give the high-level overview. And also this particular session doesn't cover the backend API services part. I focus mainly on the front end related stuff. So let's go ahead and understand the Angular component interaction flow. So in Angular application, when a user requests a specific request or the service, the component loading process involves several steps. So here what we are going to do is we are going to break down the sequence of events that occur from the user request to the rendering of the requested for the component. So the first one is user is going to request for some resource on the, let's say for the through the Angular application through the browser. So first it will go to the navigation and routing module. Here Angular route intercept the user's navigation action based on the requested route. It matches the requested route within the corresponding route configuration defined in the application routing. So in the routing module, we are going to define what is the path and which component is responsible to handle that particular path. So by that configuration, it Angular knows that this particular component is the one which is going to solve that particular request. So before routing happen to the actual component, there is something called as a route guard check. So if the route guard are configured, they are executed to determine if user has access, that means user is authenticated and has necessary permissions to access that particular requested route. For example, in the route guard, we are going to have the instance for CanActive guard, ensure that user is authenticated before accessing that particular protected route. So once this particular check is passed, then it goes to the component initialization phase. Here, Angular initializes the request component associated with that particular route. If the component is being loaded for the first time, then Angular initializes its lifecycle hooks like a ng on init constructor and other stuff it is going to load. The next step is the dependency injection. Now, for example, Angular, whatever the request user made, it requires some sort of data required from the services. For example, that particular Angular service is interacting with the REST APIs through the backend services. Then it requires the dependency injection. So Angular resolves the dependency injections for the component using the dependency injection, and services or any other components required by the current component are injected in this dependency injection phase. And also if you are going to configure any interceptor for that particular application, Angular application, then it basically intercepts that particular request, and if you want to add certain header parameters, or if you want to log some information, or if you want to add some responses after once the request is performed, so those type of operations you can perform using the interceptors. So the main purpose of the interceptor is you can basically intercept the coming request. You can add certain header parameters which are common across all the requests. For example, adding authorization token as part of the header parameter. That could be a one typical use case where we can go for the interceptor. Or you want to log certain information to the across all the requests, then that could be a one common use case. Or you want to handle some generic exceptions, then that could be the common place. Or you want to retry mechanism if the particular service is not available. So those are the typical use cases where you can implement the interceptors in the Angular. So if you configure interceptor for your application, then this particular phase will be executed and then it will go to the next phase, that is the data retrieval and initialization phase. So in this phase, the component may fetch the initial data from the services like HTTP request during the initialization, and data received is then processed and prepared for the rendering in the component. So here in the data retrieval and initialization process, if you are, for example, if you have any custom pipes, or if you want to use any built-in um, pipes for the data transformations, then those type of operations are going to be performed in the data retrieval and the initialization phase. And then we'll have the template rendering. So Angular renders the components template based on the data and logic provided by the component, and the HTML template along with the components logic generate the view for the user sees. And here there is a one more step. Now, for example, if you implement any custom pipes, as I said in the previous step, it may not render because that is the component only you can implement, but template where actually the rendering will happen. So if you are performing any um, transformations, ideally those things will happen at the template rendering. Once this template rendering is happening, then it will finally will have the view rendering. So the rendered view is displayed to the user in the browser. So this is the high level flow where, based on the application how you configure, based on that, these are the different stages of the user request will go and then process the request and finally render the uh, page to the user. Hope this is clear, and again, once again I am iterating. This is to just to get a high level overview of what are the different components are involved when a user make a request till it is getting processed from the Angular application side. Thanks for watching. Have a nice day.